Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Leverage Your Podcast show. I'm your host, Lindsay Phillips, and I'm so excited to have you here with us today. And this is probably going to be one of your most energetic episodes that you'll be listening to because we have Kimberly Crowe, who is an expert in all arenas with speaking. I mean, the list is long, Kimberly. You've got Entrepreneur, Rocket Fuel, you've got Potapalooza, Speakers Playhouse. But today we're going to focus our conversation on podcasting and that next step up with speaking. So I'm always love chatting with you. So I'm excited to have you here today.
Lindsay, thanks so much for having me. It's a delight to be here.
So everyone always says, podcasting and guesting on podcasts is always that leg up to like being on a stage. But when you were on my podcast guesting unsummit, you actually spoke about the different opportunities and different stages. And I think a lot of people miss that because they have like a one track mind on that. So let's start there so that people can understand all the different opportunities.
Yeah, so on the Unsummit, that was amazing. Everybody should go back and watch the replays of that because it was incredible. The value that came out of that event was off the chain. But yeah, we spoke about the four different categories of speaking opportunities and how to leverage each one. And one of the stages that we talked about was rehearsal stages or practice stages. And I talked about how amazing podcasts are as a
Mhm.
practice stage. Most people think of Toastmasters and I'm going to go and practice, but that's not a great, it is great. I'm glad that
Yeah.
Toastmasters is out there. I've served in it. I've been in the clubs. I've served in their leadership. And it's great for people who are terrified of speaking that don't want to like throw up on their shoes when they talk to their boss at work or whatever. But and it's good. It's a good product that's out there, but it's not great for people who want to like speak regularly because
Yeah.
you at Toastmasters you might speak for 7 minutes every 3 or 4 months, and that's just not enough practice. So my favorite practice stage of all time is podcasting, is having a conversation like you and I are having now,
Yeah.
where we can just talk to one other person. There's not a huge audience staring at us, and although the audience will see it later, and it's an opportunity for you just to have a conversation with another person and sort of figure out what you want to say. So I love podcasting. And it's a great way to be able to get your feet wet, as it were, on speaking. I do consider podcasting a speaking opportunity,
Yeah.
and it's fabulous to leverage in a particular way.
I agree. And everyone, I think though, when people think speaking, they automatically think like live on stage at a big event, which is not for everyone. You know what I mean? But you also mentioned in the Unsummit about like virtual stages or like even getting paid for speaking, but not necessarily being on that big stage and getting like a 10K, keynote. Can you touch upon those?
Sure. So another stage that we talked about was a pay to play, or I'm sorry, a paid speaking gig. Paid speaking gigs are opportunities where you are delivering knowledge to an audience and getting paid for it. And most people think of the keynote, the
Yeah.
$10,000 keynote, and I have done those, but really they're not necessarily the most lucrative for me because if you can't like I personally love the speak to sell stages, which are opportunities to get your offer in front of
Mhm.
somebody and then make more money from selling an offer than from just getting paid to deliver knowledge. But the $10,000 keynote is not the only paid way to get paid to be on
Yeah.
stage. And so I listed several that I've done in the past that your audience may have done that already were paid stages. They might just not be counting them. So a stage is really any time you are getting a paid speaking gig is anytime you're delivering knowledge to an audience and getting paid for it. So if you were a teacher, you were a paid speaker because you were delivering knowledge to an audience. If you ever taught a course, like your course on your 6 week course or your 90-minute session or whatever, and you charged up front to deliver that knowledge, even if you made a sale at the end of it because you were bringing them to another offer, that's a paid stage because you were paid to deliver that knowledge. And so I've had both of those multiple times. Being able to charge to teach a course online is a paid speaking
Mhm.
opportunity, and you can do it from the comfort of your own home. As you mentioned, many people think of speaking as like, I have to go somewhere and be in front of an in-person audience. And while
Yeah,
that's great, and I love in-person stages, the world of virtual is a phenomenal way to be able to
100%.
grow your business, grow your know, like, and trust, and get people aware of your programs, products, and services. So I highly recommend those. And then I did some other ones, which your audience on the Unsummit really enjoyed. I've been a paid actress, and you can get paid for delivering lines, right?
Yeah.
I have been paid as a murder mystery improv dinner theater troupe member, where we
That's
went and
crazy.
did dinner theater and interacted with the audience, and it was super fun. Doesn't pay super well, but it is
Yeah.
super fun. I was a paid voiceover artist. I've done e-trainings, e-learnings, and I have done equestrian polo announcing and gotten paid for it.
Oh my
Uh,
goodness.
yeah, so super fun ways to be able to get
Yeah.
paid to speak.
And I think it just like expands your brain of what's possible because I think sometimes people are like, oh, I'm not at that level to have a 10K keynote. So therefore, it's just not a possibility. So I love that you shared all of those different opportunities and just expanding your mind to how you can monetize, your insights and your experience and knowledge. Now, here's a question for you. So obviously podcasting is me and you virtually, the audience, we don't see them. And then speaking is like actual in person on stage, kind of giving a talk. They they are alike and they are different. Um, how can they work together?
Awesome. So I would differentiate it slightly differently,
Okay.
because there are recording where you don't have an audience live with you. And
Hmm.
that could be a TV show that you're on, where you actually
True.
went to like an in-person TV studio to record something, but the audience, unless you have a live audience during that studio, there's nobody there live. But then it's recorded and put out to the world later. Like your TED Talk, you might have 100. I had
Right.
100 people in the audience on my TED Talk, but I have had 71,000 views of my TED Talk. So there's a differentiator between the value of the recording and the value of the in person. So I think that's a good differentiator, whether you're in person or whether you're virtual, doesn't matter. What matters is, are you live or are they seeing you recorded? Like, are they able to interact with you
Yeah.
while you're speaking? And that's a huge differentiator. So I think on all podcasts, as far as I know, unless they're a radio show, they are recorded, and they have a huge value in one category. And then there's the in-person events that have a huge advantage in a completely different category. So if we can separate those two
Yeah.
on that line, is there an audience there with you or not? We can talk about the value of the two. So the value of the in-person, I'm sorry, the value of the live, where you have an audience there with you that can interact, whether it's virtual or in person. You can poll the audience. You can have them ask questions. You can
Hmm.
tailor your talk to whoever's personally there and give them the value of being able to get their questions answered. You can call them out by name. You can, if you're on a virtual event, you can say, hey, put a heck yes in the chat if you agree with this, or put a number one in the chat if you agree with that, or tell me what your favorite zoo animal is. And then as they're putting that in the chat, you can call them out. You can say, oh, I saw Lindsay's favorite zoo animal is a gorilla. Oh, fantastic. I rarely get gorilla, right? And you're interacting with them, and they can connect with you that way.
Yeah.
The value of that is sort of like that feel of, I don't know if I'm dating myself, but do you remember Romper Room, where she'd look through the
I
magic mirror and
totally do.
she'd say the names, and if she said your name, you're like, she
Oh
can
my
see me,
gosh.
right? Exactly. And it's that feel, and we as people love to hear our
Yeah.
name, and we love to be seen, we love to be
Yes.
recognized, right? So that live event, whether it is in person or virtual, somebody saying your name and connecting with you personally and answering your question and recognizing that you're there in the room where it happens, huge value, which isn't
I
available
agree.
unrecorded, right? Huge value. Now let's go to recorded. So recorded, the huge value in that is SEO, search
Mhm.
engine
True.
optimization. But more importantly, AEO or GEO. They're calling it two different things, but the search engines out there of ChatGPT and AI
Mhm.
are grabbing those recordings and they're learning about you from the actual content of your talks. So when they grab this recording, they'll be like, aha, Kimberly talks about in person, live, virtual. She talks about stages, right? Lindsay has a podcast that's all about how to leverage your podcast and how to repurpose content. And they'll get all of that value from this and they'll start piecing together from this review and all of the other recordings that you've done about who you are and what you're up to in the world. And now when people search for, hey, I need information about either of those categories, I need to know how to repurpose my content, Lindsay Phillips will come up and be like, oh, you should, see this podcast episode or this piece of information where she talked, right? And that really gives a huge value that
Ton.
in-person live events cannot give. That
True.
recording is the only place where you're going to get that SEO.
Yeah, that's such a good distinction. And I think it's really important as an entrepreneur to have a goal of mixing it up and doing both for both reasons.
Absolutely.
I love doing the live summits versus pre-recorded because I love that interaction
All
and
right.
and even
So
just the
good.
validation of hearing like people nodding their heads going,
Yes.
yeah, you're
Yeah,
so right. It's like, yes, like it feels good to get that feedback, not gonna lie. Um,
absolutely.
so when you're a podcast guest, I feel like the skills involved for that and having a good interview and sharing your knowledge with the world is different than how you deliver it when you're quote unquote speaking on a virtual or in-person stage. For those that are taking that leap or wanting to take that leap, what advice would you give on skills that they need to brush up or things that they need to know?
So presentation is really everything, but also being comfortable with your material. And I honestly, I would recommend getting on about 10 to 50 podcasts first. Talk to somebody else about your material because when somebody asks a question like, I don't really understand that. What do you mean by that, Kimberly? What do you mean by I thought like one was speaking on big stages in person and one was recorded podcast and there was nothing in between. Like, I don't understand what the differentiator is, right? Like now I know that I need to speak to that. I need to
Mm-hmm.
be able to share that information when I give a talk because I'm just assuming that everybody thinks like I do if I
Right.
don't try that out in other aspects. So I think that's really important. So number one, practice on podcasts a lot first before doing your in-person stage and speaking and like making that big leap there. The other thing that probably I would recommend is that you find out who the audience is in the
Yeah.
room where you'll be speaking. And this is a big mistake a lot of people make. I have made that mistake. It's a mistake that is very, very common where you're like, oh, somebody asked me to speak on the stage and I paid $1,000 for it. So I'm going to speak on their stage and it's going to be amazing. And then they don't get the return that they thought they were going to get, and it doesn't work really well. And it's because they didn't have the audience that they expected to have.
Right.
I'll give you an example. I actually spoke as a favor on one of my friend's shows, and she was teaching. I speak to entrepreneurs, right?
Yeah.
Coaches, speakers, creatives, healers, those kind of people. She was doing a summit for parents of college bound kids. And she's like, some of them are probably entrepreneurs. And I was like,
Mm,
okay, I probably shouldn't speak on that summit because I don't really speak to parents though. And she's like,
right.
well, you can speak on leadership, right? And so as a kindness, as a favor to her, she had a spot open. I said, sure, I will do that. I will speak on your stage. And I talked about 10 things your college bound kid could do that count as leadership on your college application.
Ooh.
And people came and they flocked to them. And one of the 10 things was speaking, public speaking, right? And
Yeah.
one of them was start your own business. So two aspects that I'm really familiar with, right? And then there were eight more, and they were all things that counted as leadership, but they didn't have anything to do with me.
Right.
So a whole bunch of people showed up to my event. A whole bunch of people grabbed my freebie at the end. And next week, when I sent them information on speaking and entrepreneurship, they all opted out
Yeah.
because they're parents.
I
And they
know.
don't care. They don't,
No,
like it's like it was the wrong audience for me. And
agreed.
that's a very common mistake that people make is just speaking to the wrong audience. So that's probably the number one thing I would say is if somebody hands you a mic, you can say yes, but just beware that if you're going after somebody's stage or if you're paying to be on somebody's stage and you're actively trying to get on it, make sure the audience is aligned with
Mhm.
who you're trying to get in front of. And believe it or not, you do not serve everybody.
No,
I know people think that you do, but you do not serve everybody because then you serve nobody.
I know. And it's the same thing with podcasting, really. The types of shows that you guest on use that same strategy from when
Totally.
you're looking at what stages. I mean, it is good to get your feet wet and have some practice, but yeah, you could get a flood of leads that are, tire kickers. They're not the perfect ideal client. And so,
Mhm.
like, your time is so valuable, right?
Yeah, I
Um,
know. And yeah,
yeah,
and give away your time. Please don't do that anymore to everybody for free, right? You gotta have some sort of barrier to entry for people to be able to get in to talk to you. When you show up as a coach and you're like, everybody that listens to this podcast can have a free 90-minute breakthrough session with me. That just tells the whole audience that you have a lot of time on your hands and you value it at zero. And I mean, I really, I don't recommend giving that away completely for free.
yes, I 100% agree. um, so guests on podcasts, they're used to the interview question, answering questions, right? Um, but being on the stage, it's like it's all you. Sure, you interact.
Oh,
How do you how do you create your talk, I guess is what I'm asking, from being used to just answering questions to all of a sudden you have to craft this quote unquote talk.
yeah. Yeah. So a great speaker can speak on their topic for 3 minutes, 30 minutes, or 3 hours, right? You got to
Whew.
be able to add in and shrink down context to
Hmm.
be able to speak. So a memorized talk, unfortunately, is not going to do it for you. I've had the privilege of speaking on over 5,000 stages. The only talk that I memorized, other than speaking lines on a stage as an actress, because you have to memorize those, the only talks that I've memorized was my TEDx talk. That's the
Yeah.
only one. All of the rest of the talks have some sort of organic feel to them, and it's based on who's in the audience, what I'm trying to convey, who I am at that moment. But they all have stories that I've told before. I have stories around like we've already talked about some of
Yeah.
them. Stories around the difference between a live and an in live. I'm going to say that wrong. A live stage and a recorded stage. There's stories around that I can tell. There's another story around like what makes a perfect talk title, and I give that talk, but it comes out differently each time. It's not really
Yeah.
memorized. It's just stories that I tell. And then there's talks around that I give around how to convert from stage and why you're not converting from stage.
Mm.
And there's little tidbits that I know, but I've said them over and over
Yeah.
different ways to different podcasters on different stages. And I know my content really well because I've spoken it so many times, but I don't know how it's going to come out next time. So
Yeah.
don't worry about memorizing, just have your knowledge available. And then if you're going to speak on a 30-minute stage, you need to put it in 5 sections. The first section is, and they're about divided evenly. So if you have a 25-minute stage, just for ease, it's 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, right? So if you're speaking for 25 minutes, the first 5 minutes are going to be your intro and warm up, and you're going to tell them what you're going to tell them.
Hmm.
Then your next three things are your three learning points. All right. 5 minutes, 5 minutes, 5 minutes. All right. So 5 minutes to warm them up, 5 minutes for point number one, 5 minutes for point number two, and 5 minutes for point number three. And then the last 5 minutes, which is 20% of your talk, is your offer and closing. And this is where most people make the mistake because they teach
Uh-huh.
until they have 5 seconds left, and they're like, "If you want to know more, come to blah blah blah, and I'll see you then. Bye." Right? And they
Right.
rush off the stage. And this is a mistake that I made. So I know that I
Yeah.
know that I've watched other people make it as well, and I'm comfortable saying it's very 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 common. Because I see it all the time,
Yeah.
and that because we want to pour into people and we want to teach and we want to give value, And then that last part feels like sales. And we're like, ooh, we don't want to do that. But
Mm-hmm.
that last part is actually the part where you need people already love you. They've had 80% of your conversation. Now they want to know how they can work with you further. Now they want to know what, like, if I love you and I'm like, God, Lindsay is fantastic. How can what's next? Like, what can I do? And we call that the next natural step. You need to offer them a next natural step, which might be buy my stuff, but it might be grab my downloadable
Mm-hmm.
or go to my website or book a call with me or check me out on LinkedIn. Or, it could be a variety of different things, or it might be grab my book on Amazon. It could be anything, but you need to have, like, what should they do next at the end of your talk? And you need to know that before you get on any mic. Three things I always tell them. Number one, at the end of this talk, what do I want my audience to have learned? Number two, at the end of this talk, what do I want my audience to do?
Yeah.
And at the end of this talk, how do I want my audience to feel?
Ooh.
How do I want them to feel? Do I want them to feel uplifted? Do I want them to feel like everything's possible? Do I want them to feel pissed off about something I brought their attention to? Like, this is bad. We got to go fix it. Or do I want them to feel stressed out? Like, I'm overwhelmed now and now I don't know what to do and I'm going to have to call Lindsay to figure it out, right? Like, what
Ah,
do I want them to feel at the end of my talk? And before I get on any mic, those are the three things that I need to make sure that I know.
mic drop. That was so good.
That was one of my bits, right?
I know, exactly. And I love that you brought up stories because a lot of people miss that element. And I think that's the part where, yes, it's entertaining, but B, it also compels the audience. It makes them lean in and gives them that kind of emotional connection with you. I love that. Quick
Yeah.
question.
And
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
oh, I was just going to use that old axiom, and I'm going to get it wrong, but it's something like teaching tells, but stories sell. And
Yes.
I think that, yeah. And I don't often, I will tell stories, but they're usually like inspirational stuff and ideas, rather than once upon a time I met this person and they were struggling
Yeah.
to get on stage, and then I met them and we solved all the problems of the world and now they're making bazillions of dollars a year. I don't actually
Oh,
frame them that way, right? I tell
yeah.
stories on myself, like I screwed this up, you probably might have too,
Hmm.
that kind
Yeah. Smart tip. Yes. There's a good way to tell a story and a wrong way to tell a story. 100%. So a podcaster has like the one sheet. Sometimes they'll have a media page. Do you use your one sheet for speaking opportunities or do you need something different?
You are probably going to hate this answer. Um, I have been on over 5,000 stages and I have never had a one sheet.
Okay.
When somebody asked me that on a live event one time,
Yeah.
I made a really interesting mistake. I failed to look at the chat while it was going through, and somebody asked that question, like, I'd love to get on stages, but I don't have a one sheet yet. And
Mhm.
I was like, oh, you do not need a one sheet. Like, I've been on over 5,000 stages. You don't need a one sheet. Don't let that slow you down. Let's get you on some stages. All you need to do is ask. Just find somebody that it does interviews and like reach out to them, and you'd be surprised how many yeses you're going to get. It's one of the easiest things to be able to opt in to get on somebody's podcast, and you don't even have to use a whole lot of suck up. You just say I'd love to, you just make
Yeah.
connections with them, and it's about relationship, blah blah. So I'm talking, and in the chat is, hey, what's a one sheet? Is she going to tell us what a one sheet is? Gee, I don't know what a one sheet is either. Wow, what's a one sheet? Like,
So
oh, it
then
was
they're
just
focusing
all
on that.
through. And I was like, oh my God, I
Oh.
totally missed that. That is jargon. Like, not everybody knows that.
So
So
true.
now, every time I teach about one sheets, I will teach this exact thing I'm about to teach now, which is a one sheet is like a resume for speakers. It has your name, your contact information, your headshot, your talk titles, your bio, and then some testimonials. And that's all a one sheet is. It was designed as a two-sided piece of paper that you would hand a speaker booker or
Yeah.
you would mail a speaker booker. But now I honestly, I've been on so many stages and I've never needed one. And my message on that is do not let that slow you down. If you
Yes.
have a one sheet, it's great that it organizes you. It
Mm.
organizes you on what you speak about and who you are and how you want to show up in the world. but it does not mean that that's going to get you necessarily more stages.
Yes. Well said.
Food for thought.
And yeah, it's so funny how like when people want to launch a podcast or guest, they're so hung up on, oh my God, do I have the right mic?
I'm not
And then
ready yet.
likewise, I don't have a one sheet, so therefore I can't move forward. It's
Yep.
like, oh my goodness, no.
Perfectionism is another word for procrastination, right? That whole
Mhm.
I'm not ready yet. And I have a friend, one of our friends is Michelle Abraham, and she says, if you're not embarrassed by your first 100 episodes, you waited too long to speak. And I thought, God, that's so true. Like,
Uh-huh.
yeah, like we just got to get out there.
I
And
know.
we are verbal processors, right? The more we speak about it, the more we understand what we want to speak about, right? I started in this game just teaching entrepreneurship and worse. Like I don't do this at all anymore, but I started in how to sell your business, how to
Hmm.
position your business for sale. That's what I started in because I'd sold 3 businesses and I was like, and somebody said, oh, we would love to learn how to do that. And so I started selling that, like,
Oh,
or I
wow.
started pitching that,
Yeah.
not selling it. I did not sell any of it because all my audience, like my audience are coaches, right? They're not thinking about how they're going to sell this business one
No.
day. They're thinking about like, I just want to do it and help people, right? So I was like way off. But when I first started doing podcasts, that's what I was talking about. And it wasn't for a while that I figured out, oh, I don't really want to teach on that. I want to teach on how to, how to convert your clients into like you're interested into clients. And then I was like, oh, I want to teach on how to get leads. And then I was like, oh, I want to teach on how to get on stages and make those convert for you because it's the easiest sell you'll ever make.
Hmm.
And unless you're terrified to get on stage, and then we have a different situation. But so yeah, it's morphing, and the more you
Yeah.
speak, the more you'll figure it out.
100% and refine your message and learn your avatar. Yeah, absolutely. And like speaking years ago, being on podcast years ago, I like just cringe.
I have a quick story to
Everyone.
talk about that. If you have time, I don't know if we have time, but I have a
What's
quick
that?
story on that. I
Yeah,
have a
go
quick
for it.
story. So I once did really early in it. I had a meetup group, and it was called the Entrepreneur and Solopreneur Networking Group or something like that. So I had people come and they would ask questions about how to manage their business or run their business or make sales. And I had one guy come in and he said, I don't know what I'm doing wrong. And I was like, okay, tell me. And he said, well, I created a $10,000 offer. It is 10 weeks of videos that were professionally produced and that each have worksheets with them. And it's all in a box. And then we went to try to sell it, and I haven't sold any yet. And I was like, oh, and I said, they're professionally produced. What do you mean? And he said, I hired a professional video team to record me speaking about these 10 episodes. And I thought, he's got everything in the can and he did no market research and he doesn't know, like, he did it all upside down. Like,
Oh,
first, deliver the 10 episodes, get feedback on them, to have people be like, oh, I needed to learn about this aspect. I needed to learn about that
yes.
aspect. I have a question on this. I know. And then record it and then produce something from what you
Hmm.
already did, but make money first along the
Yeah,
way. Like,
yeah.
sell that live, teach it live to people, get
Yes.
feedback, perfect it, and then make something that you want to sell. And selling a video recorded course these days for
Yee.
$10,000 is
Woo.
just like so many people can get stuff for free on YouTube that the
I know.
value just wasn't there. And my heart broke.
Oh,
So, really, my message is get on stage, get out early, get out often, figure out what the audience is clamoring to find out from you,
yes.
and then build from there.
That is such fabulous advice because you can spend so much money creating and it's fun to create, right? But yeah,
Yeah.
until you're working with the people or doing live webinars, live event, whatever it is, to get that feedback and the head nodding and, hearing what and working out the tweaks, like it just makes so much more sense.
Love it.
Yes. So I'm going to talk about the elephant in the room here. What's the speaker Playhouse behind you?
Ah, yes. It is a free event. If you're trying to get on stages, it happens every single Thursday from 10:30 a.m. to noon. It's called Speakers Playhouse, and it is a gamified networking event for hosts and speakers that would like to get on stages. We have podcasts, radio shows, TV shows, web summits, webinars,
Wow.
virtual stages, and real live in-person stages that are all up for grabs. And every week we have new people coming to announce their stage. And of course, I have a ton of speaking opportunities as well. So would love to invite your audience to come and play.
Yeah, 100%. How did they get there?
Go to speakersplayhouse.com, speakersplayhouse.com.
That's pretty easy. But I also want to share the other one of your resources because I know it helps you figure out if you're ready for speaking or
Cool.
you're mastering your mic. I can't remember what you called it right now, but because I think some people hold back, like, oh, I don't have it in me yet to take that next step. And so I think it's really cool that you have a resource or a tool to just kind of like benchmark that where they're at.
Yes, I'm all about the next natural step. And when we say we're not ready yet, we're not ready for what? We're not ready to
Uh,
sell anything. We're not ready to, we're not ready to have a conversation with Lindsay Phillips. We're not ready to, that turns into a podcast. We're not ready to get on a big stage. We're not ready to keynote. We're not ready to pay $10,000 to get on somebody else's stage. What are you not ready for?
yeah,
Right. So it's all a matter of where you are. We're always not ready for something, we feel like,
right.
but where are you? And so I have something, a resource for people called the Mike Mastery Scorecard, and that's Mike, MIC Mastery Scorecard. And we'll put a link in the show notes as well. And the Mike Mastery Scorecard gets you sort of an analysis of what you're great at already that you probably
Yeah.
didn't recognize and what your natural next step is. And it'll also give you some insights on what you already know about in speaking and what you might not have thought about yet. It does not, like one of the questions is, do you have a sizzle reel? If you don't, it doesn't mean that you're not ready to speak on podcasts.
Yeah.
It just means that that's something to think about for the future. And then in the final analysis, you'll get an email to you with 3 hot recommendations for exactly what stair you're on and exactly what to do next.
I love it. This whole episode is such a great first step for those that are guessing on podcasts but want to step into a bigger pool of visibility, if you will, and authority. And I can't wait to join the Speakers Playhouse and play with all your speakers.
Well, my motto is if it's not fun, it's not worth doing. And I live by that. So I can promise you that it will be fun.
Yes, that is awesome. I have so enjoyed you being on this podcast and helping our listeners understand what it is to speak and all the different stages. Yeah, such great information. Thank you.
My pleasure.
All right. I am so glad you joined Kimberly and I today, and I will see you in a couple of weeks on the Leverage Your Podcast show. Take care.